Welcome. As we begin to speak today, we are allowing what will to come forth and to bring about the highest change necessary for us on our own paths into this eternal exploration of our journeys within this reality. We are bringing forth information necessary for our own change within this earth, within this known reality that you are experiencing. That is to say that within this reality we are affecting change known to ourselves and that of the other. We are creating what is necessary for us to move forwards within this time to create that necessary change for our own greater good, for the own development of ourself, our truest self, to follow that of the truest path possible, to lead to the greatest good of that within our own lives and that of all that is. Understand that the change necessary for us to develop further is that of the own state of consciousness that we find ourselves in. When we are trying to effect that change, it is necessary for us to understand that it all comes from within. We are responsible for our own changes. We are responsible for that of the aspect of source that we find ourselves representing, if you will. To understand that within this we are capable of all that is necessary for us to achieve within this life and that of our future lives. To realize that we are not of this life in and of itself, but we are that of a higher aspect of source. We are playing out to our higher selves, to that of the greater aspect of who we are. We're in fact carrying forth the experience of this life and developing it further towards who we are and developing that aspect within all that is. When we realize that the change that we are creating within this reality, within this life, is not limited to that of the self, but in fact is reacting further beyond that, we are necessarily capable of achieving this and allowing it to manifest forth within the reality that we are experiencing. In other words, we are creating the change necessary for us to develop and to experience life in its fullest and most glorious. When we allow this to come forth in the most necessary way possible, we are seeing the achievements capable within our own reality, that which is capable of moving us forwards within not only our own selves and that of other, but of the whole global consciousness in and of itself. We are seeing the changes necessary for us to move forwards in the present moment. When we start to see and relate to the causality of our own experiences, we start to see the higher state of shifts occurring, and we realize that our own potentiality within this world is indeed not limited by our own beliefs, but is in fact capable of withstanding the higher realms of flow and existence in which we are part of. When we look to that higher place, that higher energetic frequency, we start to see that we are indeed part of a bigger picture. And when we look at the state of global consciousness in and of itself at its current time, we are realizing that we are in a big shift at this present moment. Within this shift of consciousness, we are indeed part of that grand scheme of change. We are capable of affecting it on a large scale and allowing it to ripple forth to that of a higher and greater state of being. When we allow this to come forth, we are indeed achieving what is necessary for us to advance within all that we know, all that is. To understand that this is part and parcel of the experience of life we are indeed living, it is to understand that we are the joy of what is, to live and experience and to accept what is and understand it for the game that it is. To realize that within this existence we are indeed playing into that game, playing into that existence of life, furthering what is within what we understand and without. When we look at this from a different point of view, we are indeed manifesting our own reality into what we know, and indeed achieving higher and higher heights within the state of global consciousness. We start to look from different points of view and realize that who we are is not necessarily reflected into the state of global consciousness, because your own state of level of consciousness, your level of vibration is indeed of that of its own state. It may not necessarily affect that of the global state of consciousness in its current state, because you are indeed raising the bar, if you will. You are allowing yourself to manifest your own reality, and which is in turn creating that state in which you are allowing to manifest towards the greater state of global consciousness. This indeed, as we speak and allow to come forth the idea of that ripple that goes forth, is allowing that greater state of change to which we can benefit, and to allow to further increase that frequency and allow it to expand the state of global consciousness. As we move forth, we determine different points of time in which we are affecting this change, and as we view these points of time, we are indeed seeing great shifts occurring, shifts which are allowing us to climb higher and higher towards that of which we know now, into the state of global consciousness. As we develop, we are indeed bringing ourselves to that finer point of consciousness, which is allowing a greater expansion into the state of the unknown, if you will, allowing ourselves to push further and further towards that higher frequency, allowing ourselves to indeed create a higher state of consciousness into which we are branching into higher dimensional states. This, of course, comes at a time in which there is great need for this higher dimensionality, the cause and relationship between which we experience and that of the higher self. When we look at ourselves from the point of view of our own lives, we start to see the correlation between that of ourselves and that of the other. We start to appreciate that we are indeed linked and interlinked as a oneness, to understand that within this we are all part of the same collective consciousness. This is something which is necessary for us to understand as an individual as much as a collective consciousness, for us to move forwards into the greater states, into the greater ideas of who we are, and to allow it to flow forth, to create that greater change within who we are and what is necessary for us to move forwards. As we allow these greater states to occur, we are indeed manifesting what is necessary for us to move forwards within this human state of consciousness, to further what is within humanity, to allow our greater state of joy and bliss to move us forwards within what we know, to further ourselves within humanity, to allow it to ripple forth into what we understand and without. In creating that change, we are indeed furthering all that is within our understanding. As we progress, we are indeed allowing these greater states to bring us to a higher and higher state. These higher dimensional states in which we speak of are indeed that of our present future, if you will. Understanding that indeed they are already here for you to access. And in accessing them, you are already achieving that higher dimensional state, that of a five-dimensional reality. You are creating a probability in which you are allowing to manifest within your present now. When we look at this from a different point of view, we are indeed allowing this higher dimensionality to occur and allowing it to shift our present circumstances into that of a different state. When we start to allow this to manifest within our identities, we are indeed creating the present now, something in which we have a great part to play in. When we allow this to manifest, we are indeed creating this higher state of who we are and allowing ourselves to follow along our truest paths, allowing us to access these higher dimensional states, allows us to access different information in which we can be part of the bigger picture, if you will, to understand that how we react within this environment is indeed part of the parcel of life. When we create these changes necessary for us to move forwards, we are indeed enacting all that we can within this life. We are creating the changes necessary for us to evolve, if you will, to advance as a state of humanity, allowing what will to come forth. When you look at it from a different point of view, in allowing the different states of parallel dimensions and universes to be present, then we realize that each of our choices that are in our present moment are indeed part of the potentiality of life. The idea of a thought which is indeed allowing different states of choice to come about. We are indeed allowing these different choices to play out, even if they are just of that of the thought. We are allowing these other states to become manifest within our identity, those that we choose to follow through with, those that we enact and react to within this life are indeed part of our own consciousness, but that of the other thought, the idea of what could have been and what will be, is indeed part of what is created. It is played out within another parallel universe, if you will. It is indeed it is in our existence. It is what is within this world. It is something in which we are experiencing within a different aspect of who we are. When we start to look at ourselves, we realize that at each different point we are creating a different aspect of who we are, a different identity. That is to understand that when you look at a point in the past of who you were from, let's say, 2 years ago, you realize that you are indeed a completely different individual, a completely different aspect of who you were at that point of time. That's not to say that you aren't who you were at that point, but you are indeed just a different aspect of who that was. You are creating those choices and reacting them into this existence. You are allowing them to manifest within what you know and what you understand, and indeed living them to the highest capability that you can within this existence. This is necessary for us to move forwards, to advance within what we know and what our understanding is of this reality. When we look at the idea of other realities, we are again looking into the existence of other parallel universes, other parallel realities in which we are indeed playing out within other aspects of ourself, our other realities. This is, of course, necessary for us to understand understand and grasp the different aspects of our multidimensionality within this reality. To understand that our limit is what is of that in which we can grasp. There is no limit to our understanding and what our ability is within this life. It is up to us to choose the path in which we play out on. It is understanding that yes, we might have certain goals in which we have set before we have come down to this existence, to that of before in which we have chosen to incarnate into this body. But it is also understanding that we have that of free will that is there to guide us. That is, of course, to understand that within the aspects of who we are given the choice of free will. It is this free will which guides us to our goals. We may have a set goal in which we want to achieve within this life, one which we may be conscious of or unconscious of within this reality at this point in time. But it is understanding that free will is there to guide us to this goal in whatever path we may so choose. In understanding this, we understand the breadth and understand that the reality in which we find ourselves is indeed limitless. We understand that to correlate within our own lives, we have to live up to our truest selves. We have to allow ourselves to go with the flow in which we find ourselves most resonating with. To allow ourselves to live from that highest point of joy, that highest point of the greatest good that we can achieve within this life. When it sits within us and when it resonates to the point in which we follow our intuition, into which we follow and allow to become reality, we are indeed allowing ourselves to flow down the path of reality towards that goal, towards that life path in which we are indeed bumbling our way along through experience. We are allowing our higher selves to guide us towards that of our understanding. We are fulfilling our higher selves and allowing ourselves to manifest towards that of our greatest state within which our higher selves are currently living, if you will. A state of being in which we are indeed conscious of. When we realize that we are indeed capable of accessing the information from that of our higher selves, we are indeed allowing our humanity to reach that of our spiritual selves. We are allowing the highest state of who we are to achieve that ability in which we can access the information necessary for us to evolve to our higher states, if you will. Indeed, when we allow this to manifest, we see the breadth of who we are, and we allow ourselves to enfold around that idea of the oneness, the capability of understanding that we are indeed of one. We are part of all that is. This is a game in which we have most fun in playing, in which we have most fun of understanding. And when you realize the capability within your life, the journey that you are on, and the part and parcel of who you are within this existence, when you understand that your experience is necessary for reality to continue, to grow, you understand that the game in which you are playing is part and parcel of all that is. The breadth and reality of understanding this is indeed something which is hard to grasp at first, but once you have that idea and once it resonates within who you are, you indeed allow yourself to move forwards within this reality. You allow yourself to grow to the highest self that you can be within this life. Indeed, it is this which is necessary for us to move forwards, to advance. And indeed, it is necessary for us to understand this from the idea of who you are, the aspect of your soul. Once we are in a place where we can understand this, it is then possible for us to move forward, to allow ourselves to resonate on that higher frequency, to indeed allow others to resonate around us, for them to bring themselves up to a higher state of consciousness. When you realize that that is how we indeed affect the change necessary for us to raise the state of global consciousness and to allow ourselves to all reach the same page, if you will, those that are necessary for us to reach within this lifetime. Understand that you will not affect everybody. It is necessary to understand that the experience that we live is indeed experience necessary for all people to grow within their humanity, within their soul, to understand that they are in a constant state of evolution. But indeed, we will not all reach that same state of higher consciousness at the same time. There is experience to be lived, and aspects are to learn who they are within this life, to then fall forth and to flow within their own realities, to learn the lessons that they will, to expand their state of consciousness, to allow that growth to expand out towards the greater state of who they are within their own higher selves. For it is experience which is necessary for us to grow. When we allow this to manifest within our realities, we again see who we are for who we truly are. You are the best in which you are. You are who you can be within this life. It is up to you to understand the relationship in which you have with existence. When you start to understand the benefit in which you can bring to this reality, the understanding of who you are and how you can achieve change, how you can help heal not only yourself but that of others. Indeed, it is that understanding which will bring you forth to the higher heights of who you are and understanding the greater scale of consciousness itself. To spread love and joy to that of yourself and the other. To understand that within this life you are capable of bringing that love and bringing it into the core of who you are. Allowing it to shine forth from that soul part of yourself, that spiritual body in which you inhabit. When you allow that energy to go forth, you are indeed creating that infectious rate of change within humanity. You are creating all that is within what you understand and that without. You are allowing this change to manifest all that is within what you understand. And when you allow this to come forth, you allow this love to spread and allow the joy to come forth within what you understand within your own life. You are allowing this to manifest and allowing yourself to live to the greatest path and to live to the greatest experience that you can. When you bring this forth, you understand that you are no longer limited by your past experience. You realize that your past experience has brought you to where you are in the present moment. This relationship you have, that of the present past, that of the present future, that of the present now, only brings you to that higher state of who you are. When we bring it forth into that change necessary for us to advance, we allow these shifts to occur to bring us to that higher dimensionality. We understand that higher dimensional states are indeed that which we are trying to attain, if you will. But understand that these higher dimensional states are indeed there for you to grasp in the present. When we realize that indeed we are not separate from these higher dimensional states, we are in fact one with them, we realize that they are there for us to access. In doing so, it is up to us to achieve what we can within this life. Not only for the furtherment of humanity and all of global consciousness, but understanding that we are indeed affecting change within that of a higher dimensional state. Understanding that other beings of light, that live within other higher dimensional states, are indeed affected by the change in which we enact within this dimension. We understand that our reality within that of the earth plane is indeed affecting that of all life. Life that we are yet to perceive of, understand the different states of being in which we are indeed affecting. These states of being in which we are yet to grasp and understand the reality in which they are inhabiting. These states of being are, of course, some of a physical state and that of a energetic state. We are understanding that, again, these different states and levels of consciousness are indeed accessing different levels of information in which are achieving different levels of experience within what these aspects understand and know within their own higher dimensional state. They are then causing the ripples not only to go forth throughout their own dimensional state, but that of the other higher dimensions and that of the lower dimensions. They are creating this change, which is again affecting all that we know within the state of all that is. When we start to bring this into our own being, allow this to resonate with who we are, we realize that the change is necessary not only throughout our own earth, that of our own dimension, we realize ripple throughout all of what is. The love does not stop within this dimension. It is indeed existent within all that we understand and all without. This is the joy that can be experienced within this life. When we allow it to manifest forth throughout who we are indeed creating who we are within other dimensions. We are allowing this to manifest within other dimensional states and allowing ourselves to exist within these other dimensional states and bringing forth this information to other beings, other states of consciousness in which we can enact into to bring forth into our own being and allow it to manifest forth towards who we are. Indeed, this information is necessary for us to move forwards. It is not all to be understood in one go, for indeed that is part and parcel of the experience of life. We understand that we all play a part and live different truths throughout different moments of who we are within our lives. When we look to expand our truths, we look to expand who we are within this reality. When we understand that different levels of truth can exist at different points of time, in fact, to exist in the same point of time, we understand that we are indeed living these experiences through a higher state of consciousness. One person's truth does not necessarily negate another person's truth. It is just a level of understanding for that aspect of identity, that aspect of source at that particular time. When we realize that the soul is indeed living this information, no matter how it is affected by the ego, no matter how much our ego is indeed holding us back from who we are. Indeed, the ego is not necessarily a bad thing, nor is it necessarily a good thing. It just is what it is. It is an aspect of who you are within this life, something which does lead to drive you to who you are. But it is up to you to allow that ego to either allow to remain within the driver's seat or to sit into the passenger seat, or to even push it back into the back seat, if you will. When you realize that you have control on your own ego, when you realize that it lives within the physical body, that of the mind, you realize that you are capable of allowing this change within your ego, allowing yourself to understand your correlation with that of the ego, to understand how it relates to that of your spiritual self. If left unchecked, the ego will run wild. So wild that it will appear to be boring at times. Indeed, the ego has led you to who you are at this moment in time. When you allow yourself to bring your ego into check, if you will, you're allowing yourself that greater part of you to come forth, to live into your truest self and to bring forth that aspect of your identity which you may never have known was really there. You can bring that forth into the soul, the seat of your soul, to bring forth that experience of your life which is necessary for you to move forwards into the greatest aspect of who you are. When you bring forth who you are, who you truly are, the love of who you are, when you bring that into the reality of who you are, when you allow that to manifest, it will guide you along your greatest path. It will bring forth information necessary for you to lead yourself into the truest identity that you can, into the state of highest good, highest love, highest truth in which you can inhabit and live and experience all that is within the greatest aspect of identity and experience that you truly can. If you allow yourself to be limited by your ego, you are indeed allowing yourself to be limited within this life. Ego is as necessary for you to function as it is for you to breathe. It is understanding that your relationship with your ego is necessary for you to put forth, to bring it into check. When we develop that healthy relationship with our ego, we are indeed living in a state of balance. It is that conscious awareness and allowance to keep that ego into check that allows us to bring forth the greatest state of who we are. Indeed, the more we live in our true selves, that state of love and light, we are indeed living our highest selves. When we allow this to manifest within who we are, we do not necessarily need to address that state of the ego, for it is no longer in a controlling position. You have removed it from the driver's seat. You have even pushed it so far back it is in the boot of the car. It is realizing that, again, when you allow this to come forth within who you are indeed enacting the change necessary for you to move forth into your highest self. And when you reach that highest self, you realize that the flow of energy is there for you to access, that everything is flowing towards you as much as you are flowing towards it. You realize that indeed there is no pushing, there is no shoving towards anything within your life. It is indeed realizing that in allowing this to flow, there is nothing necessary for you to change, that all of what you want to experience is there for you to experience. You are indeed allowing that higher state to guide you forth. Once you can achieve this, you will understand that all of what you want to access and all of what you need to access is right there before you. There is no longer a state of want, if you will. There is no longer a state of reaching for things, for they will fall naturally into your path. Indeed, it is allowing that to come naturally towards who you are. Allow it to resonate within your soul, and love will spill forth. Love will guide you towards the greatest path on who and what you are. With this information, we leave you. We welcome you to this space, this energetic space and allowance, and bring forth the understanding that you are never alone. Indeed, you can access higher states within which you exist, that of your own higher self, that of the higher aspect of Source. It is there for you to grasp at any point in time in which you allow yourself to. You are never alone, and you are always with love. In this, we grant you the highest state of love possible. We welcome you to yourself. Blessings upon you and blessings upon the planet. Namaste.